Hello, everybody, and welcome back to tracking our local shifting real estate market here in southern New Jersey, Burlington, Camden, Gloucester counties, 900,000 and below. And this is a makeup week from last week, which I was not able to do because I got married last week. Yay, very exciting. And I'm sorry for missing a week. But this week, we're going to go over both week 23 and week 24, these first 2 weeks of June. And the first thing that I'd like to point out is the odd similarity between the total active listings of last week versus this week of 1437 and 1436. Am I going to draw any big conclusion from that? No, just a silly thing that happened. But let's just go over last week real quick. So 378 for our new listings, a pretty solid number that we've seen, 340, and then 394 on our closed. One of the highest closed weeks that we have seen in a while. So I'm happy to see the amount of actual units going under contract, because everything I'm hearing from everybody is this market's really difficult. This market's really difficult. You get it. So expired, withdrawn, and canceled at 96. That was actually a good bit higher. I did want to check that against this year. Besides this week here in April at 124, we had a 104 back here. You can see it's pretty common for that first week of the month, which really tallies the last week of the previous month. That's when you see that number the highest, because there are a lot of listing agreements that are set to the ends of months. So it's not all that surprising for us to then see here at the beginning of June a 96 for our expired, withdrawn, and canceled listings. And then coming into the second week of June, that drops off pretty precipitously. That's a common theme we're seeing. Our price reductions at 143, again, almost 10% of every listing that's on the market every single week is doing a price reduction. That has been one of the best holding trends we've seen in a while. A couple weeks here and there that have a little bit of a variance of difference. Our days on market, again, dropped pretty low at 54 and 22. And then our volume 562. But here's kind of the story that I want to point out is really in these last three columns of the 2 weeks. You have a 369, 990, again, setting an all-time record for this area for median list price. The next week, this past week, we crushed that record. And I just want to remind you that going back to week 21, that was also a record of 359. We've now gone up $15,000 in that median list price in the span of a month. We started this back in 2023, and our median list price at the start back then, 315. 315, and it went down to 309 literally in that second week. So from January of 2023, last year, we were at 309, and we are now sitting here. Sorry, I don't mean to keep going all over the place. We're now sitting at 374. That is like a $65,000 increase in median list price in 18 months. It's like a 25% increase in the price of these homes. The one thing that I want to point out a little bit is that the question of the economy has come up a little bit. And you have two different factions that are going on right now. Objectively, if you do just look at the stats themselves, the economy is doing great. GDP is up, all these different things are good. However, it depends who you ask, in my opinion. If you are somebody that's over the age of 45, over the age of 50, that's been sitting on a big 401k, your home has been paid off, and you've been sitting on that home for quite a while, you're doing fine because your coffers have been increased significantly. Yeah, the prices of groceries have gone up a little bit, but it's okay. You can handle that because you're probably already in a seasoned job in a salaried position where you've managed a lot of that. Now, if you talk to anybody my age or younger, I'm 33 at the moment. If you talk to anybody younger than that, they're going to tell you that the economy sucks. And it's because they don't have a home that's been appreciating. They don't have a 401k that's been appreciating. They have cash and probably a lot of student loans, so they're probably already in debt. They have a job market that's not really realizing them from the skills that they actually do have, or maybe they went out and got too many skills. That's actually a thing. You can actually over-educate yourself for the job market that you're going into. So that's been a problem. So I got people saddled with student loan debt. They're still living at home because they definitely can't afford rent. And if they were going to try and buy a house, they'd have to give up every single contingency that they could possibly think of just to get the monthly payment to be in a reasonable standpoint. That's why we're seeing so many of our younger generation moving to renting and not looking to try and buy. You've seen the stats. Back in 1980, the average income was $22,000 and the average home was $49,000. you could basically pay off your entire home in a 2-year salary. Right now, the median income is like 55,000, and the average home price in the country is somewhere like 450, right? So it takes you an incredibly long time to earn that back. And then obviously now in these last 10 years, we're dealing with terrible, terrible interest rates. And I say terrible, not because in a historical context they've been much higher than they have been, but the fact that we were promised these rates would be lowered this year by the Fed, and it's June 12th. They haven't been lowered much. Not by much at all. So that's the hard part. And then, wait a minute, coupled on top of that, we also get to our average sold to list prices and our median sold to list prices, 103.1, 102.8 for our average, 102.2, and 101.6 for our median for the 2 weeks that we just had. So that means that all of these listings that are actually on the market are going over. And so you have to conceptually wrap your head around the fact that I have to continue paying over the asking price of these homes. The home has to appraise, but most of the time they're not always appraising at the value. The buyers have to pre-agree to an appraisal difference. They're adding even more cash going into a potentially negative equity position, depending on the type of loan that they're using, just to get this house that they then are probably buying in a much older home that's much smaller than what they were anticipating. So wrapping all that up, you want to ask, how's the economy doing? Again, it depends on who you asked. This is not fun anymore for a lot of folks. And what I've been telling people is that we have been pushing this dream of homeownership for so long that it's become a given that it's absolutely right. Guys, I'm a realtor, and I'm telling you, you may not consider owning a home as your pathway to financial success. That is a really hard pill to swallow for me to think about. The fact that rent is going to be the most you're ever going to pay in a month, and a mortgage is the least you're going to pay every month. Because in New Jersey, especially in the Burlington, Camden, Gloucester counties, if you're going to be buying something that you can probably afford, it's not going to be a new construction, and it's not going to be something that's been built recently, because developers won't build single-family homes under $250,000. You're probably buying a 1920s to 1960s home that's had considerable issues, has maybe had some good ownership. Don't get me wrong, there's some of those homes that are built super solidly and have been maintained really well, and they had a ton of character. But most people haven't been upkeeping them. And then especially over the last couple of years with inflation, there's been a ton of deferred maintenance. I just showed a home yesterday that had terrible deferred maintenance. $700,000 home, stucco, Tudor style, wood rot everywhere. There's bursts in all the ceilings. Oh, and they are pricing it at the most expensive home that's sold in that development. And it is fully as is. They will not make any repairs. And so a young couple or younger buyers that are looking to try and buy that home are going to just be hurt trying to get into that home, get into price points that they can't manage, get into payments that they can't manage, and then take on repairs that they can't manage either, all in this inflationary economy. So what to do? What to do? Well, you don't buy a home. And it's not for everybody. Obviously, there are some people who the dream of homeownership is still going to be the main thing. They're going to make that do. They're going to be in a financial position where they're going to be. But a lot of those homes are now couples who are able to make over $150,000 to $170,000 a year as a household income to be able to get into some of the homes that they actually believe they want. But what I've seen is that people still can afford to buy homes. They just can't afford to buy homes that they want. And that's the problem right now. We have what I thought I could afford when I first started this process and the homes that were on the market. And I built this concept of the home that I want here. Well, my income didn't go up, but the price of these homes went up. What did we just talk about? $65,000 in the matter of 18 months, less than that ish, 17 months, 16 months, whatever it is. So people are looking at the homes on the market that are in their price range. I have buyers right now. I have multiple buyers that have 20, 30, 50, 80 homes in their portal. They're like, Connor, we don't like any of these homes. Not one of these homes is actually servicing the criteria that we have to purchase. Not one. Who's at fault? Is it the buyers who believe that they should be getting a house that's better than what's currently on the market? Maybe there's a conversation to definitely be had in there about you need to readjust your expectations. But people are saying, well, I'm going to pay $2,700 a month for this mortgage to go live into that, or I can just go find something for rent for $2,500. I know I won't have to pay anymore. I don't need any extra maintenance. My only down payment is basically my first month's rent and my security deposit. I'm going to get that back as long as I do the bare minimum to maintain this property and not trash it. Now, there is a little bit of the security of that home that starts to become an issue because, yeah, my landlord could sell my house out from under me and then I have to find another rental. And that's a really big bummer. But people are way willing to take that risk right now as compared to purchasing. So if back in, back when, I don't know when I say back when, I would say kind of the 2018 to the right before the COVID market happened was sort of this neutral market, if you can call it that. It was just, it moved okay. It was basic inflation. There wasn't anything crazy going on. You still had decent grants. Rates were still pretty favorable in kind of the 3-4% and things like that. People were still okay with buying and still okay with doing these things. But as we've gotten further with this, you used to have, 10 properties that you used to be able to do, but you can't. So anyway, I'm going to finish up my rant here for a second because I think I just heard the wife knocking on the door that I've accidentally locked. But here's what I'll say. Consider renting. It hurts me to say that, but consider renting because what's happening to the prices and where the interest rates continue to be, it remains to be a little unfair. So anyway, y'all, have a good week. Talk to you next week.